Welcome to The Explainer. We're jumping right in today to break down the sheer dramatic escalation between Prophet Musa and Pharaoh, straight from our historical texts. Now, if you've been following the narrative so far, you know the tension has been quietly boiling. But what we're looking at today, this is the breaking point. This is the exact moment where a battle of ideologies explodes into a physical, empire-wide crisis. So, we have to ask ourselves this core question. What actually happens when the arrogance of the world's most powerful king violently clashes with divine will? Let's look at the immediate fallout of the greatest magical showdown in history. You've got a ruler who literally believes he's untouchable, suddenly staring down a reality he absolutely cannot control. I mean, how does a tyrant react when his ultimate display of superiority shatters right in front of his entire kingdom? That brings us to Section 1, the magician's defiance. This right here is the major turning point where Pharaoh's master plan completely backfires. Just picture the scene. Described in the texts, the royal magicians had thrown down their ropes and staffs, creating this terrifying, massive illusion of slithering snakes. Pharaoh thought he had it in the bag. But then, acting on divine command, Prophet Musa casts his staff to the ground. And it doesn't just become a snake. It transforms into a massive serpent that actively hunts down and literally swallows every single one of the magician's false illusions. When the magicians see their fake snakes consumed by a true divine miracle, they instantly recognize the truth. Remember, these guys are the absolute masters of illusion, so they know better than anyone that this is no trick. It's reality. And in a fraction of a second, their loyalty to Pharaoh just evaporates. You have to admire the sheer fearlessness of this submission. The texts tell us they fell into prostration right there on the ground, despite the immense danger. They didn't call a timeout. They didn't try to negotiate for their safety. They just instantly declared their faith for the entire kingdom to hear. Now, what's truly fascinating is how the magicians' newfound faith makes them completely immune to Pharaoh's terrifying threats. Pharaoh's ego is bruised, right? So his response is immediate, graphic violence. He threatens to cross-amputate their hands and feet and brutally crucify them. But the magicians, they absolutely refuse to back down. The threat of losing their lives means absolutely nothing compared to the profound truth they just witnessed. Which leads us to Section 2, Pharaoh's cruel retaliation. Humiliated and with his ego severely bruised, Pharaoh executes a devastating shift in strategy. Because, well, when a tyrant can't defeat the strong, he inevitably turns his wrath upon the weak. Unable to beat the miracle and unable to break the spirit of his former magicians, he lashes out at the vulnerable. He and his courtiers decide there's going to be zero leniency moving forward. They expand their reign of terror, trying to completely crush the spirit and the future population of Bani Israel by brutally increasing the torture and accelerating the murder of their infant sons. It's a highly calculated move to extinguish their strength completely. And you can hear the absolute despair of the Israelites here, bringing this agonizing complaint directly to Prophet Musa. Imagine the psychological toll for a second. They're essentially saying, look, we were suffering way before you arrived with your message, and honestly, the oppression has only gotten worse since you got here. It is such a raw, heartbreaking expression from a community that has been pushed way past its breaking point. The Prophet Musa responds with this incredibly powerful declaration of hope and patience. He doesn't promise some immediate magical relief from the pain. Instead, he anchors them in a much larger vision. He reminds them that true justice is on the horizon, but it comes with a massive condition. When they are finally made successors in the land, they will be tested on their own actions. It's a profound, sobering lesson in leadership during a crisis. Moving on to Section 3, the 5 divine plagues. So, when Pharaoh completely refuses to heed the warnings and crosses all boundaries of cruelty, the divine response escalates rapidly. And we're talking about a relentless sensory nightmare designed to systematically dismantle the Egyptian empire. First, you've got devastating storms and floods wiping out their homes and crops. Then, whatever agriculture somehow survived is devoured by massive swarms of locusts. Next up comes this inescapable physical torment, lice and ticks infesting their bodies, their clothes, and their grain stores. After that, frogs overrun literally everything, from their food to their cooking utensils to their very beds. And finally, the ultimate blow. Their life source, the river Nile, and all their drinking reservoirs turn to blood. And get this, notice the highly targeted nature of this final plague. The texts point out a mind-blowing detail here. The exact same water source yielded life for the oppressed and absolute horror for the oppressors. An Israelite could draw clean, pure drinking water, but the second one of Pharaoh's people touched it, it would instantly turn into thick blood. It was an undeniable, highly personalized sign. This was absolutely not a natural disaster, it was direct divine intervention. Here is section 4, Broken Promises. Now, you might be wondering, how does anyone survive plagues like this without just surrendering? Well, it maps out into a highly toxic, totally predictable cycle. How many times can a leader witness such undeniable signs and still choose ignorance? Every single time a plague hits, mass panic ensues across the empire. The Egyptians run to Prophet Musa, begging him to pray for relief, promising that if he does, they'll finally believe and let the Israelites go. So Prophet Musa prays, the plague is lifted, and guess what happens? The very second the discomfort is gone, Pharaoh instantly returns to his arrogance and cruelty, completely taking advantage of Musa's prayers and breaking his own word. Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, the Midnight Exodus. Because of this endless cycle of broken promises, the ultimate divine decree is finally handed down. The time for warnings and plagues is officially over. Allah gives Prophet Musa this precise and, frankly, chilling instruction, setting the stage for the climax of our whole story. Notice the absolute certainty in the command. You will surely be pursued. They're told to leave, yes, but they're also warned right up front that this is not going to be a peaceful walk to freedom. Can you imagine the sheer tension of this moment? We're talking about an entire nation, men, women, children, the elderly, quietly gathering whatever they can carry and slipping out into the darkness while their oppressors sleep. It is a massive, highly coordinated, secret migration. They are leaving behind literally the only land they've ever known, trading generations of brutal enslavement for a highly dangerous, uncertain chance at freedom. But then, morning breaks, and Pharaoh's rage peaks. When he discovers the mass escape, he doesn't just see it as the loss of a labor force. The source text highlight that he considers this the ultimate personal insult. His ego just cannot handle it. He completely transforms from a domestic tyrant into a bloodthirsty military commander. He furiously summons his forces, mobilizing this massive, heavily armed, state-of-the-art ancient military machine. And he doesn't just send them off, he personally leads the army to hunt the Israelites down and wipe them out completely. And that leaves us on the edge of our seats with a seemingly impossible situation. You have a vulnerable, unarmed caravan of families fleeing on foot, trapped with nowhere to go, and the most furious, well-equipped army of the ancient world bearing down on them from behind. How do you survive when the very geography is against you? That is exactly where we're going to pick up in our next explainer. Until then, I want you to think about the cycles of arrogance we've explored today and ask yourself, what really happens when human ego finally runs out of road?